Promove edição especial virtual. Realização e promoção. Patrocínio. Apoio. Apoio institucional. Parceria. Parceiros de mídia. Assessoria de imprensa. A logística e a transformação digital integrando negócios.
Hello. Those of you that are watching us, welcome. Here, live from Expolog 2020 studios, we send you a virtual greeting. Our entire audience in Ceará, Brazil, and the rest of the world, watching the International Logistics Seminar in this very special edition, 15 years, the main theme, Logistics and Digital Transformation, Integrating Business. Now we will watch panel 2 called International Ports. So please, let's see who our speakers are.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Duna Uribe. I am the Commercial Executive Director for Pecém, Pecém Port and Industrial Complex here in Ceará. And today it's a very exciting day because during Expolog, in this really interesting fair that is celebrating its 15th year anniversary, this time we have a very interesting theme, which is called Logistics and the Digital Transformation that it integrates business. And for this, I'm heading the panel called International Ports, and I have the great honor to introduce a guest speaker from the Port of Rotterdam. As you all know, the Port of Rotterdam is a partner of Pecém Complex. In 2018, we became partners between the government of State of Ceará and the Port of Rotterdam for the further development of the port. Therefore, it is very interesting to talk about digital business with the expertise and the contents, the rich contents that the Port of Rotterdam can bring to us. And why this is because they have been doing a lot in this aspect. So we invited Mr. Wouter Demenint, who is a business manager from Port of Rotterdam International, to come and talk to us and introduce to us a little bit about who is the Port of Rotterdam, what is happening there at this time, and what are they doing in digital transformation. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Wouter Demenint. Wouter, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Duna. Thank you for that introduction. Also, thank you for the invitation to present at this stage and present Port of Rotterdam and what we do in terms of digitization and becoming a smart port. Allow me to load my presentation, which I will take you along on what we are doing. I hope it is on your screen now.
Yes, perfect, very clear.
Okay. So maybe to start, for those of you that don't know where Port of Rotterdam is located, we are at the northwestern Europe as the gateway to Europe, some 7,500 kilometers from Fortaleza, where you are, and well, we are serving over 500 million customers in Europe. And well, well, we are a port industrial complex, just like SIEP is in Pecém, where industry and port business are integrated, and we manage our complex as such. The Port of Rotterdam stretches over 42 kilometers, as is shown in this picture, and well, it starts at the heart of the city in the east, all the way up to the North Sea with our latest physical expansion, Maasvlakte 2 in the west, which is well at the North Sea. So our mission is to create economic and social value by working together with our clients and stakeholders on the realization of sustainable growth in Rotterdam's world-class port. And recently we've asked the Erasmus University to investigate the impact of Port of Rotterdam for the Dutch economy. And they presented that in a report called the Rotterdam Effect. An important conclusion of that study is that the economic impact is much larger than people think. And that is so in terms of earning power for the Dutch economy, as well as in terms of employment. And that's all thanks to the Port of Rotterdam. And now it's also scientifically proven by the Erasmus University. In the period 2002-2017, the share of value to the Dutch GDP that main Port Rotterdam adds has increased from 5% to 6.2%. And the value added by main Port Rotterdam has grown from 25 billion euros to 45 billion euros. And moreover, employment generated has grown, as these figures show. 385,000 jobs have been generated through the Port of Rotterdam, and that's an increase in the share of employment to the Netherlands of from 3.2% to 4.2%. This makes Port of Rotterdam one of the strongest job engines in the Netherlands, and we play an active role in promoting employment in the Rotterdam region. Sorry. So we used to be the biggest port in the world up to 2004, and we are not since then because the Chinese have taken over, as you can see from this picture. Basically, we are the number 10 in the world, and 8 out of the 10 are Chinese ports. But in Europe, we remain the largest port by far. And if you look at our cargo throughput, if we break that down, what you can see is that we are very much dependent on fossil-based industries, which account for almost half of our throughput. And that brings us to what our ambition is today. We are constantly looking for how we can make our port smarter and more efficient, better and more sustainable. We want to be the smartest port, the most sustainable port in the world. And digitization and automation offer substantial opportunities to improve logistical processes and make them more efficient. Furthermore, the Paris Climate Agreement has given a powerful boost to the energy transition, transforming fossil industries towards a climate neutral industry, and digitization can also help in the energy transition. And what you see more in the most recent developments with COVID-19, there you also see an acceleration in this development. So let me show a clip now, how we view our port in the future.
Imagine a climate-neutral port. Energy from wind farms, carbon-neutral sailing, sustainable industry, a circular economy. A digital port with real-time data. A port where operations can be predicted. A port without waiting times. A port that saves time, money, and emissions by making the most of new technology. We're not there yet, but our mission is clear. The smartest port in the world and climate neutral in 2050. Only together we can become a sustainable port. Only together we can use digital technology to make our logistics smart. Only together we can remain a leader with major economic value, so we can remain relevant in a rapidly changing world. We won't sit back and wait. That's not in our DNA. We establish the foundations, the infrastructure, the services. We drive and forge coalitions. We achieve sustainability step by step. We use residual heat and store CO2, electrification and hydrogen, green and blue. We will create a circular industry. Our innovative capacity and strong business climate keep us working. We create great opportunities for smart hands and bright minds. Enough jobs for people and the treasures they hope to find. Port of Rotterdam, the future is now. Make it happen.
So allow me to continue.
Yeah, the next one was the video and then the next one.
Yeah. So, even though many initiatives have already been launched, the impact of digitization on the logistics sector is still limited. However, there's no doubt that the digital transformation will also lead to a rearrangement of the change in this sector. Perhaps especially in this sector, since there's an enormous potential for efficiency improvement in logistics. These numbers show that 30% of the cargo is not on time and shippers do not know exactly where their containers and freight are. Moreover, in 2019, each shipment in the logistics chain requires around 200 interactions and documents we are talking about. On average, a shipper has to deal with 28 organizations, varying from terminals and forwarders to shipping companies and customs. For the companies involved, this means there's a potential for huge improvement that can be realized through digitization. And around the world, digitization is making huge advances. New technologies, new players, new alliances, new business models. The digital revolution is running at full steam and is making waves in our own sector too. A perfect example for this is, for instance, Alibaba, who's getting into shipping. And from the ocean shore to the depths of the hinterland, the digital transformation is unfurling at an increasingly rapid pace and with increasingly strong effect. And as far as we are concerned, sitting on our hands is not an option. We want to be a front runner in this transformation. And the digital transformation leads to fundamental changes in society as well. In other words, we're not living in a time of change. We are living in the change of an era. Digitization leads to much greater transparency, predictability, and efficiency, which, among other things, makes certain links in change also superfluous. In retail, the travel sector, and the banking and insurance sector, this is already in full swing, and we are only at the start of this development in our sector. So, as one of the leading ports in the world, and with our ambition to be the world's smartest port, Rotterdam is taking the lead in the digital transformation of ports and logistics. We want to create a global network of smart connected ports that will increase efficiency in global trade lanes, reduce costs, and reduce carbon emissions. The digital transformation of logistics chains play a key role here. We see this as a step-by-step approach. As a port, you start with yourself in the port community and then bring it to the hinterland into the process of digital transformation. Then it's a matter of connecting all ports over the world, and we are constantly working on these steps. Now we believe in this step-by-step approach where we develop further as a port, developing in using smarter technology on the one hand, but maybe even more important, build a community to work smarter and become more and more connected with the port community, connected with the hinterland, and finally connected with other ports. And that's why we developed a range of solutions that connects the physical port to the digital world manages the port's assets and processes and stimulates collaboration between all port community players. Because collaboration and partnerships is key to this for success. So we've developed products in the whole logistics chain. As you can see here, some of our products. This also shows that digitization does not only impact one party, it affects a whole supply chain. And parties are more and more interconnected with each other, and digitization is the solution for making these interconnections efficient. So here you see the solutions and where they are impacting. So we not only invest in a physical infrastructure, but also in the process optimization, as well as in the digital infrastructure and smart services. Broadly speaking, the digitization initiatives of the Port of Rotterdam move along 3 axes. So on the one hand, we are looking at improving the nautical processes in approaching the port as well as within the port. And furthermore, we are working on making the logistical processes within the port more efficient. Lastly, we are also investing in supply chain transparency and visibility, for instance, with our cargo tracker, linking the port within the European hinterland. In all these processes, the added value for our customers and the competitive position plays a prominent role. And to give you an example, we look at port call optimization, for instance. You see that at 30% of all port calls have delays, and lack of timely and reliable data sharing is the root cause of it. Data quality is not assured, common accepted communication standards are lacking, and the closed data culture among shipping industry also doesn't promote collaboration. Outdated and inefficient means of communication are still being used, such as telephone, and sometimes even fax. So our vision of a port call is like a Formula One team pit stop. And in the next video, we'll show how it works. I hope this works as well.
For every port call, many different operations must be performed at just the right time. A lot of information is exchanged, often using separate outdated systems or even telephone. This is inefficient and causes costly mistakes and delays. Our solution is straightforward. Pronto puts all the relevant information into a shared dashboard and into APIs. The whole process can be monitored and coordinated much more accurately and reliably. Pronto cuts idle time. It helps lower fuel usage and carbon emissions, and by reducing call times, it frees up extra capacity to handle more vessels or perform maintenance. Pronto, port call optimization. Would you like to know more? Please visit portofrotterdam.com/Pronto.
So we've changed the name to Port Exchange, but the application is still the same. And as the video showed, it provides shipping companies, agents, terminals, and other service providers with a shared platform that they can use to exchange information about their port calls. It makes sure that the parties are aligned, talk about the same reliable information, and a port call can be just in time, which saves money, prevents CO2 emissions, and is more efficient. And to show you, this is basically what it looks like. So you see the Port of Rotterdam, and on the below you see the several services that are connected with a ship approaching the Port of Rotterdam. And Port Exchange is aligning all these services together so that nobody has to wait, and everybody has the same information real time. Provides and the application shows that 20% of waiting times can be reduced by using this application. And to give you another example, the technology to enable autonomous operation is in full development in the field of aircraft and cars, and that will undoubtedly also be in the case for the shipping industry. And all the projects we are working on also contribute to the ambition of Port of Rotterdam to make autonomous sailing within the Port of Rotterdam possible by 2030. An essential step in this process is the development of a digital twin, as we call it, of the Port of Rotterdam. This is an exact digital copy, including all infrastructure, ship movements, weather conditions, and hydro information. And the first stage in this process started in 2018 with the development of an IoT cloud platform in collaboration with IBM and Esri Cisco and Axians, which collects and provides insights into hydro and meteorological data, such as water levels, salinity, wind speed, visibility, and flow via sensors. The platform should help the port reduce waiting times and optimize berthing, loading, and departure times. The platform also allows us, for example, to predict the best time to berth and depart depending on the water level while guaranteeing a maximum cargo. And as said, we want to be the smartest port in the world. And in order to realize that ambition, innovation is crucial. We stimulate innovation on multiple levels. And to give an example, we have set up Port Excel, I think it was in 2016, and together with the port community. Port Excel is an incubator which stimulates port-related startups worldwide with innovative ideas for the logistics, maritime, chemical, and energy sectors. So over 100 days in 2016, 12 selected startups accelerated their innovations to the market, and 12 have established themselves in Rotterdam, and 5 out of 12 immediately signed a customer contract. And we have repeated this incubator every year since then. And another example of innovation is the emergence of smart containers, which will also help in that respect. We recently sent a Container 42, as it's called, on a trip around the world to collect data. The container, which is equipped with sensors and communication technology, monitors factors such as vibration, incline, position, sound, air pollution, humidity, and temperature during the journey, and it has been fitted out with solar panels. This data will provide us with valuable insights, and they will help us to build the port of the future and become more efficient. So as you can see, we are working on several or multiple projects in our port and together with our partners on digitization to make the Port of Rotterdam the smartest port in the world. I could show you much more, but I believe you already have a good image now of what we are working on. So thank you for your time and having me present this.
Thank you, Wouter. Thank you. That was a lot of very interesting information, and it shows how much the Port of Rotterdam is advancing into digital transformation. I would like to ask you a question. You mentioned that, well, we all know the Port of Rotterdam was the first or the largest port in the world. Now you mentioned that it's number 10 and the largest in Europe. However, the Netherlands has around, 16 million people. How is it possible that the Port of Rotterdam ever became so large?
That's a good question. It has to do with our position and our location as a port. We are located at the mouth of the Rhine River, which connects Port of Rotterdam 900 kilometers inland towards Germany, Switzerland, and the rest of Europe, and that has given us a strong position in the connection to Europe, and together with our ambition to become or to be the best port in the world, we also invest a lot in our infrastructure and try to have the best quality infrastructure in the world. We've also been recognized for that by the World Economic Forum. I believe it is 8 times already in a row right now, and that's what makes us, what we believe makes us the best port of Europe.
Very nice, very nice. It makes clear, because then the connections to your hinterland, which are your wider market, I believe reaching up to 500 million people, if we look at all the European Union and the hinterland of Rotterdam.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, yeah. And something else, while you're presenting all of this digital initiatives, I was thinking, and maybe our public watching us are thinking, why would the Port Authority take an initiative in this? Why not let the private players develop these tools and come up with the solutions, since perhaps maybe they are even closer to the actual cargo handling operations and the supply chain transactions? How come the Port of Rotterdam chose to really have a leader role and take a leader role in this digital transformation?
Well, what you see is that because of digitization, geographical borders and values are changing. I said in the beginning of my presentation, Fortaleza is 7,500 kilometers away from Rotterdam, but now through digitization, it's only 1 mouse click away, and the physical port is where it is now, and the digital is looking forward, and we want to look forward, and we see ourselves as the trusted partner and independent, neutral partner to bridge the connections between all parties in the port. What you see is that individual parties find it difficult to connect with other parties and share information, and Port of Rotterdam sees itself as the connector between those parties and the bridge between companies to making it more efficient and take that first step.
So you're really using the role of you're taking the umbrella role as one that can really put everything together and connect the several parties. Nice. And well, this all sounds very exciting for Rotterdam, but what about for ports internationally and for terminals internationally, and even us here in Brazil, and especially in Pecém? How can other ports globally benefit from these initiatives that you are investigating and developing and making available in Rotterdam?
Well, as said, we are looking for partners. Digitization is about making connections and connecting ports worldwide. You cannot do digitization on your own, so we'd like to involve any party that is looking at digitization and becoming more efficient and reliable to join us. We are also looking at developing platforms, and a platform only can exist and coexist with other parties joining that platform. That's what makes it strong. So we approach and try to involve all the relevant parties for our solutions to join us, and we also provide these solutions to other ports in the world if they need them. What's more is that as Port of Rotterdam International, we also offer advice to other ports in their digitization efforts. We can provide ports and with a digital maturity assessment on what level of digital maturity they are and how that relates to what level fits their ambition, their corporate strategy, because not every port needs to become the most global connected port in the world. But for every port, digitization is relevant. So we can assess their digital maturity and see what level and efforts a port should take to become more efficient in getting control of their digitization.
So, so I hear that there is consultancy advisory is possible from the Port of Rotterdam to ports internationally. And I believe that the tools that you mentioned, the initiatives are also available to be customized for international ports or terminals that want to make use of them. In other words, this has become a marketplace for you. It is a platform that you're able to sell these products to ports that are interested abroad.
Yeah, that's completely correct. We see that the port is not only a physical on location in Rotterdam anymore. It's becoming much more also we'll call it a software type of solution, which every port in the world is relevant to. So we try to indeed present our solutions to other ports in the world as well, and we can customize them to their needs. And we think that is also important, as it doesn't stop in Rotterdam. We are connected to all ports in the world, basically. So every port in the world using the same type of solution or connecting through an API to a same type of solution will make the whole global chain more efficient.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Wouter, for taking part of this panel of international ports. We'll finish at this for your part, and now we'll discuss with the other panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation, and good luck with all your endeavors. Thank you.
Okay, so after listening to this presentation from the Port of Rotterdam, we'll now move over to our other panelist, Mr. Mike Wychocki. Mike is the International CEO for EagleRail Container Logistics, and he will share with us his views on what are some cleaner, smarter, and more digitally connected improvements needed in the short haul and intermodal container exchange. So let's hear from Mike and what he has to say about this important segment in our logistics.
Thank you, Duna. I appreciate the introduction. This is Mike Wychocki, Chairman and CEO of EagleRail Container Logistics. We're an American-based company who actually got our start in Brazil, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. My presentation today is on intermodal automation and how, as ports grow and they get increased demand and they improve automation within the port, how do we help the intermodal process so that ports can evacuate and accept containers quicker using more automation as well. So let's go to my presentation. So turning short haul problems, intermodal problems into solutions, what options do port authorities have today? So the challenges to the container intermodal for the next 20 years, as we see it, is growth. The first problem is growth. It depends on what study you read. the port industry in the next 20 to 50 years is going to grow 2.5 to 4.5 times. So imagine the same ports processing 2 to 4 times as many containers. Depends on what study you read. It'll grow somewhere between 3.5 and 5.5% year over year. Now, the pandemic may slow things down a bit, but it's still going to be astronomically larger. In addition to growth, ports face 4 intermodal challenges and 4 additional challenges that have been delivered in terms of solutions, but have actually additional challenges. So trying to handle this growth will be difficult because, number one, the ports are landlocked. Number two, there's a global shortage of drivers and chassis for short haul. Number three, there's environmental pressures for cleaning up ports. And number four, there's digital pressures for trying to integrate port data into smart city grids, blockchain, paperless documentation, and payment settlement. In addition to those 4 challenges, there's been improvements trying to be incorporated into the port market that have also put additional challenges on intermodal. What are those? Billions that have been invested into additional port automation to process the containers faster to the gate. There's been new inland container depots built nearby to handle this pressure because of the landlocked port. Number 3, most countries have a road to rail mandate, trying to get more container trucks off the roads and onto rail systems. And then, of course, number 4, there's a lot of deep sea ports being built to handle the deep ships that can't come into the more shallow ports. So what's the problem is that there's one manual process crippling $4 trillion in global trade. And that, of course, is the short haul drayage problem. So the ships are larger, the ports are automated, but they're still going through a very thin pipeline of unaddressed container drayage going through these very old, antiquated gating processes. So what we are attempting to do at EagleRail is come up with a new first mile solution. And we look at first mile in this sort of diagrammatic. You have port operations getting the containers from typically factories or warehouses. Then they go to an intermodal hub, which is typically a long haul transfer center, so there's a short haul process and a long haul process. As these ring of intermodal hubs are being built, how do you get more containers to that long haul transfer point to go then the longest part of the journey? We look at it, there's 3 ways to solve this short haul first mile problem. There's upgrading a truck network, and that will definitely be a transition to electric trucks, perhaps driverless, but they'll still need dedicated roads so that it could either be elevated roads or underground tunnel roads. There's also ground rail options, but that would have to be a transition to electric trains, in both cases to get rid of diesel pollution, and then brought near property or on property, but they're not really able to pull less than full wagon, so it's not that efficient of a process. Or there's a third process, which we call automated shuttling, adopting some type of automated warehouse robotics where you're lifting and shuttling the container out to a dedicated ring of intermodal or railhead through some sort of elevated or underground system. One of the ideas that's getting some good press, of course, is Hyperloop, but we think it's the right idea, it's the wrong execution. The wrong execution in that Hyperloop goes very fast over long distances. We're not trying to solve the long distance problem. The long distance problem is very well taken care of with an underutilized rail network in most countries and good highway systems. It's the short haul that's the problem. So while the Hyperloop has gotten good press and has helped us, EagleRail, become more of a market play, it's the wrong execution. They're chasing long haul. And really the problem that needs to be solved is short haul. The other issue, as I mentioned earlier, is ports continue to become more and more automated. So what about their counterpart in intermodal? As you can see, there's been over $10 billion invested into port automation in the last couple of years. And the McKinsey study has shown that automated ports are safer and moving towards what they're calling ports 4.0, which is a shift from asset operations to automation operations. So EagleRail wants to move port automation outside the gate. We think there's 3 ways to solve this problem. You can go back traditionally, as I mentioned earlier, to more highways, trucks, and gates, but that seems to be compounding an already congested network. You can extend traditional ground rail onto the port, but there's not a lot of ground left to put ground rail in, and you need a long piece of property on a port to build enough wagons. So they're really not good solutions. So you say, what's the third opportunity? The third opportunity to us is taking a page from three existing successful industries. The first one, of course, is automating horizontal transfer the way they're doing inside of a port through the AGVs. The second, of course, is flyovers. In most of the countries, especially in the Eastern Hemisphere, countries are addressing port congestion and road congestion with an elevated road system that goes up and over the local road traffic. So you have throughput traffic up in the unused airspace or the flyover solution. And the third, of course, is robotics in warehouses, automatically lifting a packet up in the air, shuttling it to a preset determination of the destinations, and then dropping it down. Our solution, of course, at EagleRail is overhead light rail shuttling. We're the first to market. We're a disruptive technology and a disruptive business model. So EagleRail shuttles containers one at a time. It's the best of truck and rail. It's best of truck because it can move each container one at a time. It's the best of rail because it's automated and you don't need trucks or roads or drivers. It's really about creating a coordinated network, and it's a network of steel and data. So connecting a port to an inland intermodal terminal and any place that there's high repetitive delivery of containers. As EagleRail has found out, in a port, about 50% of the containers go to two locations, a nearby railhead and a nearby intermodal exchange. The other 50% go to 500 destinations. Those will never be automated, those 500 that go everywhere. But if you have 50% of your containers going to and from two locations, 100% that should be automated. So the intermodal network or ecosystem, our customers are the people who currently process containers. Our partners are the port authorities and the local municipalities. And our services are two: short-haul container shuttling and data tracking integration. And what we do, we partner with port development companies or port authorities when they decide how are they going to deal with their port automation and now intermodal automation problems. What EagleRail is trying to do, of course, is take the congestion coming in and out of the port, as you can see on the left, and turn it into an automated shuttling system next to a road. EagleRail does not cut across a city. We usually follow some jurisdiction with a right-of-way, typically a road, a railroad, or a power corridor, and we run next to it in a safe, secure, fenced-off environment. The footprint is pretty narrow, and we take all those container trucks off the road and leave that additional traffic capacity to the public and cars. One of the things, of course, worth re-mentioning is we're not competing with long-haul rail. Long-haul rail is actually our number one partner. We're trying to feed long-haul rail as fast and efficiently as possible. We've learned all this because we've been working with EagleRail in Brazil primarily in the beginning since 2010. And in about 2015, we started visiting other ports outside of Brazil. And we've actually been to 21 countries and 40 ports in the last 5 years, pitching and learning about what their needs are. And that's where all our data points come from. There's really 5 best use cases for an automated short-haul shuttling system outside the port gate. Number one is interconnecting 2 seaport terminals. When you have multiple terminals, some of the bigger ports in the world might have up to 7, 8, 10 terminals, and they have to transship between them. It's a great operation to not have to have trucks doing that. Second, of course, is connecting a sea terminal to an inland railhead or a long-haul transportation truck center. Third, of course, is to an inland storage yard, an ICD, or in a lot of countries now, industrial zones and special economic zones. 4, of course, is if you're investing billions of dollars in an end-to-end automation vision. Automating your intermodal short haul really fits in well with automating the rest of your port. And lastly, of course, these deep sea jetties that are being built around the world for these larger, deeper ship drafts. Here's an example of one that EagleRail has designed in West Bengal, India, in a town called Tajpur. And it's a long 32-kilometer pier out to the Bay of Bengal where the deep sea ships will come in. And EagleRail is putting a proposal together to move 2.8 million TEUs in the next 30 years. It's a large system, over $1.5 billion of US CapEx. Short haul diesel versus electric, of course. Why is it such a competitive conversation? Well, it's obvious when you can automate something using electricity versus diesel. It's cleaner, it uses unused airspace, it's data and intelligence, it's taking the automated warehouse model outside, it's modular, easy to customize, and it really not only breaks up the bottleneck of the port, it opens up the entire supply chain. So when you do a side-by-side comparison, it's really a no-brainer, especially when you look at the environmental impact of additional diesel trucks. I don't think any port in the world or any town in the world that hosts a port wants 2 to 4 to 5 times as many diesel trucks running through their town. So not only is EagleRail greener and cleaner, you can also take the top of the rail and put solar panels on it, which reduces the grid pull by almost 22%. Now, EagleRail is not just about steel, it's also mostly about data connectivity, data connection. It's a completely automated system with a control system that can override it. So our EagleEye is our operating software. It interfaces with terminal automation software, the TOS, and it takes its instructions as where the containers need to go. And then vice versa on the exports, on the inbound to the port, it takes instructions from the railhead. So our system is fully data integrated, and our system prioritizes, just like any warehouse shuttling software would, to prioritize which containers go where in what sequence. And that data is available 24/7 to our partners, and it's trackable, unlike a lot of the current trucking systems, which still use mobile phones and clipboards. And to that point, then it can be integrated across an entire network. So it's really perfect for cities that are moving to smart city grids or smart port grids or the Internet of Things, trying to track everything, and especially when ports and terminal handling goes to blockchain. EagleEye will have that all built in to be a seamless data system across the entire network. Who are the benefits of EagleRail? Well, there's a 3-part benefit. One, of course, the primary is the shipping lines in the ports, allows them to have higher throughput, reduce their dwell time in the port. The secondary, of course, are the intermodal partners that we're feeding, primarily the railroads and the long haul trucking companies, but of course the private traffic for automobile traffic. And of course, broad-based tertiary is the cities and the people. It's more safe, it's less pollution, there's more smart jobs available. So it's really it's a benefit to all shareholders and stakeholders in the supply chain. One of the big advantages, of course, is speed. Just because a truck has to come in, get a pick ticket, find the right container, go back through the gate, sit in traffic, do the exact same process at the intermodal yard, come back through traffic, get the pick ticket, come back in. A lot of times we've averaged in these 3 ports, we did time studies in Mumbai, Bangladesh, and Long Beach, California. A typical round trip for a drayage truck is about 4 hours. So the drayage truck can do anywhere from 2 to 3 trips a day, where the EagleRail automated shuttling is about an hour or less. So we're about 75% improvement on time just alone. And then, of course, what does that mean when you can move your containers faster out and into the port? Of course, you're reducing dwell time, which increases slot productivity, which means the port is landlocked and can improve its processing of containers just by moving them faster. So they can process more containers with the same real estate and be able to be more profitable by doing so. We like to say there's 3 analogies to the intermodal as a fee model that we're using. with overhead shuttling. One, the functional analog, of course, is long distance conveyors, which are being used a lot in the world for mining and coal movement, eliminating trucks in that industry. There's the procurement angle, where the country doesn't have to necessarily put up the capex. It can be done through a toll road concession type of model with a PPP, where we come in and get a mixture of private financing and public financing and create a SPV at a PPP level, and we just charge per container moved. And then, of course, there's the financial analogy of a disruptive model. We're coming in just like ride sharing, just like home sharing, just like all these new powerful models that have come in the last 10 years. We also think this is a disruptive type of financial model, as well as a business model and an intermodal transportation model. So as I mentioned, our business model is franchising container toll road. We charge per box move, and we set up a local SPV within every region. So it's a combination of, this happens to be a Brazil model, but it's a combination of the client is basically, the PPP is written with the Port Authority, and then we have private lenders, public lenders, and our customer, of course, are the port authorities. I'm sorry, the port operators and the shipping lines. The other thing that's very important to EagleRail is corporate social responsibility. We like to say we're elevating more than containers. We want to elevate the lives of the port workers. We want to elevate the environments around the port, the cities around the port, to make them safer, cleaner. We want to invite local content. We want to invite minority and female-owned vendors and sub-vendors. We want to have community reinvestment. EagleRail really wants to not just help the intermodal industry, but the intermodal people in the community around the intermodal industry. The proof is in the computer modeling. So when we go into a port, the idea is, how can we show the throughput is faster, better? We actually do modeling in 2 stages. The first is what we call static math. We map out the nodes, where we're going to pick them up, where we're going to drop them off, how many we're going to process. And we can do a very simple 2 weeks worth of mathematical calculations. And then if that proves out, we go to phase 2, and we put it into dynamic modeling, or what we call modeling in computer simulation world. So we'll actually design a system in a CAD drawing, import it into, we use FlexSim, and we'll run the system, and we can show both visually and through data graphing where the peaks are, where the downsides are, et cetera. This happens to be a sort of visualization of what a simulation would look like. So where have we done these so far? Now, we have a very successful relationship right now with PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC. We use them as our third-party validator. We just completed a very large techno-economic study in Chittagong, and it proved out to be more successful than even EagleRail predicted. This is all of us with the port chairman in Chittagong, Bangladesh. These are the systems that we have 3 systems that we considered. Doing the phase 1 calculations, the one system was eliminated. It's not being profitable, so we went to the phase 2 with the 2 systems. There was a smaller overflow yard and the larger bay terminal. This is what the overflow yard looks like up close. You can see on the right-hand side is the port and the water terminal. On the left-hand side is the intermodal terminal, which happens to be a kilometer away across a very busy street. But right now, to take a truck across that road can take 8 to 12 hours, where you can shuttle it over that road in 10 minutes. So these are some of the financial assessments that we got from PwC, but a more fun way to review this assessment is with a little video we made in 3D animation, showing it within, with all the financial data. So let me play that for you really quickly.
A rising powerhouse in Asia, Bangladesh relies on its port and intermodal infrastructure to support its expanding manufacturing GDP, as well as its growing middle-class consumer base. Capacity expansion initiatives at the port of Chattogram, coupled with the already congested city roads, make investing in automation inside and now outside the port gates an urgent necessity. In the spring of 2020, EagleRail and PricewaterhouseCoopers completed a techno-economic feasibility study for the 4 terminals at CPA, assessing the impact of automated overhead light rail container conveyance systems for improving port productivity while also reducing road congestion and diesel pollution. The study analyzed two EagleRail systems. First, a smaller configuration between the new mooring container terminal, NCT, and the nearby overflow yard. The EagleRail system for NCT will be a 1-kilometer loop that will shuttle over 1,100 containers per day from the NCT terminal backstacks to the overflow yard and support growth to shuttle almost 2,000 containers per day, projected on this route within a few years. The overhead solution, which crosses over Bandar Road, will accelerate the relocation of the de-vanning operations to the overflow yard by reducing that shuttling time from up to 24 hours to now just minutes. It will also shorten container dwell time and increase overall container handling capacity, all without expanding the current real estate footprint of the NCT terminal. This automated, data-driven, 100% electric system can operate 24/7, eliminating 350,000 short-haul truck journeys annually, removing 5,000 plus metric tons of CO2 emissions per year around the port, and all while reducing noise pollution. With dual loaders installed at both ends of NCT and the overflow yard, containers can be quickly accepted from and handed back to port trucks as well as straddle carriers. The NCT system has a cost of about $30 million, a payoff period of 8.3 years, project IRR of almost 15%, and an economic IRR of over 22%, which exceeds the 12% government benchmark. The second and larger bay terminal system will support the growth of CPA's riverside terminals at General Cargo Bay, GCB, its conversion to the Cornafoli Container Terminal, KCT, and the build-out of the New Bay Container Terminal, BCT. It will uniquely support the overall CPA expansion of capacity from 3.1 million TEUs currently to 7.4 million TEUs by 2030. The EagleRail Bay Terminal system will pick up containers from the large new BCT stacking areas and shuttle them to and from GCB next to Port Link Road without adding additional truck congestion or pollution. The Bay Terminal system is expected to cost about $200 million with a payoff period of 7.2 years, project IRR of over 15%, and an economic IRR of also greater than 22%. Together, these two clean, automated, overhead container shuttling systems will allow the Chattogram port to thrive and grow, improve operational efficiency, decongest port area and city roads, improve road safety, lessen pollution, create higher technology jobs, support other port automation investments, and prevent port operations from being interrupted by weather, pandemic, and other labor shortage-related issues. All necessary to keep Bangladesh's economy on its impressive growth trajectory. EagleRail, intermodal takes flight.
So we've also done some studies around the world, but we've done 3 in Brazil. One of the first 9 o'clock. Excuse me. One of the first ones we did was at Itajaí. Very similar system, crossing, just basically crossing a road that would take very long time to do a truck to go out the gate and all the way through the town and back across the street. You can just go right over the top. And here's an example of what it would look like. Of course, what we don't show here is there would be a protective catchment underneath it. Anytime EagleRail flies over a road or a pedestrian way, there's a barrier that would prevent anything from falling out of the container for safety reasons. We've also worked in other ports In Vitoria, we're looking at a long system, which would be, all the way from the port to an intermodal hub. And then, of course, we've done in the past, we've worked with the University of Sao Paulo Engineering Department on what would it look like if we were to put in a deep sea jetty off of Santos. And this was just more of an exploratory study that they did. We worked with the UN Ocean Conference on this, as well as a study group called Bridging the Blue Economy out of the University of Sao Paulo. And then, of course, one of the biggest things we're working on is the Sao Paulo to Santos to Sao Paulo connectivity plan that's working to decongest the problem because there's two problems, of course, in Santos. One is the gate and the nearby road congestion. And here's a picture of that. And then, of course, the highways coming down from Sao Paulo, the two main highways, which are crowded. And building a new highway, a third new highway, is so expensive. It's almost out of the question. So Sao Paulo is the state of Sao Paulo is looking for third opportunities, and EagleRail is being considered for that as well. We're looking at two potential routes. This is a double route going from both sides of the terminal, of the estuary, up to Cubatao, and then up the incline Sierra do Mar up to Paranapiacaba. And then here's a single-sided system as well, up to Paranapiacaba and what we're calling an upper platform, which is just an upper inland container depot. The challenge, of course, for this is that the grade is over, it averages 8%. EagleRail can go up to 6% without any assist. A typical ground-based rail is about 3%, so we can go double what a ground-based rail can go. And after that, we need cable assist. So we're working with cable technology companies out of Europe that pull very large, heavy weights up, whether they're ski lifts or whether they're industrial lifts. We work with them as well. And this is what an EagleRail lift station would look like, the Eagle Lift. So for parts of the hill, there'll be a cable assist where we go above a 6% grade. When we're going between 8 and 10%, we would need a cable assist lift like this. So that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank my partners in Brazil, Wouter Calamita and Carlo Marzano. And of course, I want to thank Jose Newton Barbosa Gama, our good friend in Portugal, who's one of the founders and main instigators behind container shuttling in Brazil. So thank you all, and I'm open for questions.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for this very clear and interesting presentation. I would like to ask you a few questions. This is such a good concept that you have presented to us, and actually it's almost obvious. So why hasn't anyone done it before? What are the hurdles? What are the limitations in order to make this more widely?
Thank you, Duna. That's a great question. So the concept seems so obvious, and it seems almost what we would say a no-brainer. Why hasn't someone done this before? It's a question we get asked a lot, and there's probably a surprising answer. And it's not that the technology is difficult, because the technology for overhead shuttling, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, is really a combination of three existing technologies. There's the lifting and shuttling of shipping containers, which people have been doing for 50 years. There's warehouse robotics, and there's basic flyover overhead technology. So they all exist. Putting them together isn't that difficult. And then you throw in the software, which, with your international shipping companies and your package processing companies, there's a lot of software available to put this all together. So the secret sauce is in two things. One, combining all those four elements together. But the concept of lifting a 60,000 pound box and moving it isn't that novel. It's been around. The difficulty has been working outside of the port jurisdiction. So it's almost a governmental political issue that has made people hesitant, not the technology. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, all the port automation we have today is within the port gates. And then all the automation we have on the railroad side is within the rail yard. But once you leave those jurisdictions, you're on public property. And that's been the hesitancy, is how do you tackle bringing together all these parties? So in some ways, it's a political negotiation that has to happen. You have to bring in the federal government, the state government, the municipality government. Usually the Port Authority has to guarantee the volume. Then the power company has to guarantee the power. Then you have to find right-of-way alongside a railroad, a road, a power corridor. So bringing those elements together, that's the hard part. It's not the technology. But what's changed, even in the 8 to 10 years I've been involved in EagleRail, is once upon a time, people didn't want to come to the table because it was somebody else's problem. The port just kept investing in port technology. The ships kept investing in bigger ships. The rail companies were investing in better cranes on the rail side, and everybody could just turn a blind eye to the road problem because there was always additional truck drivers and chassis available. Now what's happening is there's shortage of truck drivers, a shortage of chassis. The roads are unbearably crowded. So the municipalities now have to make a decision. Do they build additional roads or do they look for an alternative? So now everybody has to come to the table. The government, the port authorities, the power companies, it's everyone's problem now. So especially when you look down the pipeline of growing 2 to 4 times, nobody wants 2 to 4 times those trucks. So people are forced to come to the table. Now, when you add in greening of technology and adding data to the system and blockchain, it's a no-brainer. Now I don't have to ask people to come to the table and negotiate. People want to come to the table. As in Brazil, all the parties are ready to talk now. Maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, they weren't, but everybody's ready now to say, we need to solve this problem together. And that's why I think time has come for overhead container shuttling.
Thank you, Mike. Another question that I have that came from the audience is actually what happens if the system temporarily stops? How can you get the system running back up again? So not to have any delays. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thanks, Duna. That's another great question. We get asked that probably. Second most is what happens if the system shuts down? When you have a broken down truck, you can, of course, put the container on a different truck and keep moving or get another truck. What happens when you have containers on a shuttling system and the system goes down? So there's 2 ways we address this. One, we have a lot of redundancies in our system. And let me explain how. There's the lifting apparatus, which we showed you in the video, where the containers get lifted up to the rail. Now, in all those lifting stations, there's 2 lifters. That's done for throughput, for volume and capacity, but it's also done for equipment redundancy. Should one fail, you still have an operating lifting station. On the track itself, each carrier that moves a container has 8 motors on it. And the idea of all the motors failing at once is almost impossible. But if one could become disabled, another carrier, a fully loaded container behind it, can actually push it. So the carriers are designed so they're strong enough, should one actually stop working on a system, that a container behind it could shuttle it. Now, where does it shuttle it to? Because it's still on the line. So what we do in our system, about every half kilometer, like a railroad system, we build a pull off or a siding so that the container can be, trolley can be shifted to a pull off area and sideline so it won't block traffic. And then at that pull off station, of course, that container can be let down and that trolley taken out of service. Of course, we have additional carriers on the line. So if 10% additional, 10-12% additional carrier capacity. So should a carrier to go down at any one given time, those can be taken out of service. The design is purposely designed with external wheels and external motors for very fast servicing, almost like a pit crew in a Formula One. You can pull those wheels off, put new wheels on, and get that thing running really quickly. So that's another way we do it. And then lastly, there's a way to calibrate what it does to a system. If you remember, we talked about virtual simulation in the computer world. So what we do in phase 2 of a study for somebody, we're really studying two things, peak and shutdown. So when you do an average study, let's say a terminal is moving 3 million containers a year and 1 million containers would go on the shuttling system. We can design a system with 1 million throughput on an average basis. But as you know, in ports, there's no such thing as an average. So there's bunching. There's a whole bunch of ships coming in at once, and then there's a couple of days where there's no ships coming in. So you have to design a system to peak. So when we do virtual simulation, we're designing to peak. What's the most containers that will be on a system at any given time? And secondly, to your question about backup and reliability of the system, we actually shut the system down virtually. We say to ourselves, okay, customer, if your system should go down for an hour and a half, what would happen to the entire system? Well, obviously, it'll slow down and stop. Certain portions of the system, not all the portions will go down at once, but if one leg or one node is shut down, what does that do to the entire system? It'll suppress the system throughput for an hour or two, and then slowly over the course of 24 hours, 36 hours, it will come back to a normal rate. And we can show you, even with the occasional shutdown, the system is still far superior to trucks. So just like any overhead conveyance system, whether it's in a warehouse, whether it's in a manufacturing facility, if there's any shutdowns, the system will come back up. It'll be down for a small period of time, and then the productivity comes back up within a day and a half. And we will prove to you numerically that even with those potential shutdowns, which will be very rare, we're predicting a 99.9% uptime. But for those few hours a year, when the system has to be slowed down, even with that, it's far superior to a trucking system.
All right, so we will now listen to Mrs. Mar Chao. I love this name because mar in Portuguese and in Spanish means the ocean. So she is the perfect person to be in the perfect position. Mar is the head of commercial and business development of the Port of Valencia. Mar, let us hear what you have to say about Port of Valencia. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the organizers of Expolog for inviting Valencia Port to participate in this session. Also, I would like to thank my colleagues from Porto do Pecém for the opportunity to be able to share with you our experience in terms of digital transformation. The Port Authority of Valencia manages 3 ports, Sagunto, Valencia, and Gandia. In order to manage such complexity, geographic and terminal challenges, for many years now, the Port Authority of Valencia has tried to be a pioneer in terms of going digital in Spain. And what has helped us is to have a port community system in this way. As I mentioned previously, the Port Authority of Valencia manages 3 ports, Gandia, Sagunto, and Valencia. And so we need very clear efficiency. If we look at Gandia, this is a port that serves local cargo traffic, the handling of cargo. The volume in tons, 500,000. So it's a small port, but for sure serves many industries. The port of Sagunto is a port that's more north of Valencia. And at this port in 2019, we handled almost 7 million tons of cargo. This gives us an idea of the importance of this port. And this port handles a lot of vehicles as cargo. And so in Sagunto, we have general cargo, a lot of steel mill products, and basically a historical port since Roman times. Industry is quite linked to steel. And in Sagunto, There are facilities dedicated for vehicles and also an energy terminal. Undoubtedly, the well-known port is Valência. Valência is very well known for container traffic, 5 million TEUs. However, it's also important for cruise ship passengers, more than 1 million passengers, and of course, vehicles as well, with dedicated facilities for such. Here we can see the facilities at the port. Now, the area dedicated for terminals, we can see, is one of the most important areas, and so I'll really sample our most relevant traffic, which is container. But we have 2 public terminals, the shipping ports and APM, and another private terminal. And so at this moment, we're in a phase to provide concession to a new container terminal that will allow us to double our throughput. In yellow, we have the area dedicated for automobiles. And other facilities for this kind of cargo. And so here we've built a silo or a storage facility, the largest storage facility, 4,000 square meters, which allows to improve our storage capacity for new vehicles. And we hope to increase this traffic after the pandemic. So this is an interesting project that we're developing, a passenger terminal in an area in blue that you can see closest to the city, which will allow us to manage the traffic of passengers from regular lines and also from cruise ships. Now, regarding Sagunto, the areas in green, we can see the multi-purpose cargo. In blue, we have gas, and in yellow is another part. Now, what's important in Valência, which gives us this position as a hub to the Mediterranean, our leadership is that 350-kilometer radius of Valência, we have 55% of Spain's GDP and a major part of the population and access to the hinterland. And so the Port Authority of Valência is very competitive for all those that want to arrive into our country. Now, some more relevant information because of the competitive position of Valência is that around Valência, in a radius of 350 kilometers, we have 60% of imports and exports. And so our geographic position is a clear advantage in this sense. To move cargo throughout Spain by Valência is also a great gateway for products that arrive from Ceará or any other place from Brazil for that matter. Now, some more relevant information is we are a transshipment port. where you have major ships, and then cargo is distributed to all of the Mediterranean. Now, not only good maritime connectivity for Valencia, but also more and more with railway corridors, intermodal corridors, if you will, that allow us to connect to other ports, such as Bilbao in the north, servicing the north of Europe, or also connection with Madrid and other regions. More than 80 weekly trains, and some of them specifically for containers. But I said this is a short presentation just to know what the Port of Valencia is all about. Now, the goal of my talk today really is to talk about digital infrastructure. And as we heard from our colleagues from Rotterdam, who want to be the most intelligent port in terms of going digital. And so we really want to develop our new port infrastructure because, of course, it's very important to have modern infrastructure in order to obtain more traffic. But more and more, the pandemic has taught us that digital infrastructure is even more important because nowadays we need new infrastructure. We need to make quick decisions and react quickly. And we need reliable data. Some years ago, this was impossible to imagine, but nowadays a client wants a quick response. And so therefore, we need to share information and we need to strengthen our data gathering. The Port of Valencia, in order to manage all this volume of data, we have a port community system, PCS. Valencia Port PCS is our digital platform where we connect all of the different agents of the logistics chain. So all of the services and basically documents and more data. And our Valencia Port Community System not only connects the entire port community in Valencia, but is also connected to the rest of the world through different platforms, as we can see here on the slide, in order to provide the maximum amount of services to our clients and facilitating connectivity with other platforms. And always trying to promote a collaborative culture for the transfer and sharing of information in order to optimize all logistics processes and, of course, reduce costs. Now, our vision is that everything that has to do with sharing information in real time promotes greater transparency and the optimization of transportation flows, and always allows us to cut down on costs. And now on this slide, we try to show with this cartoon the concept of the Valencia Port PCS. This is a platform that belongs to the Port Authority of Valencia that allows, with one single click, to connect with more than 850 companies. This is a case of success because everybody understands that you can reduce costs and convey in real time all of the information from all of those that are part of the logistics chain. And so not only we have land transportation, but also rail, customs, and all government agencies. On the other hand, Valência PCS, we're part of IPCSA, and we always try to keep an active presence in order to be on the forefront of what's high technology for ports. And so it's very important to know that we can do this, because if you stop to think about this for just a second, you may fall behind. So we always need to innovate, not only from an operational standpoint, offering added value services to our clients, and also helping them to cut costs. And that's why we always try to give visibility and traceability to all cargo, and also a technological evolution at our port. And so we have the willingness also to migrate to the cloud in order to offer a greater amount of services in less time for our clients. Because we understand that with this, we will improve our competitiveness and our port will be more attractive and generate more business. Now, some examples of some developments that we've had recently. This is just a small sample of how we see PCS. For example, we've made available a vision in real time of all of our port cameras. In order, if people see if there is a line, for example, a waiting line, a queue, then people can organize themselves. On the other hand, this has facilitated through an app for smartphones, where on this app, you see in real time where you have to get a container, for example, and an estimated time of arrival. In this way, as we can imagine, to improve the efficiency of our services. Now, another example, another case of success is automation. As trucks come in and out of the port. And this is possible thanks to the perfect and total integration with Valência Port PCS. And so the entry and exit is totally automated, and we've been able to reduce extensively any lines or queues or waiting times. And of course, in terms of security, with greater traceability and total control of all those that go in and go out of the port, all integrated with the system. Another example in terms of automation in our port is in the North Terminal, a new container terminal. This is a terminal that will use advanced technology, and this is a semi-automated terminal. And so therefore, all processes will be integrated with the Valência Port PCS system to provide information in real time to all those involved in the operations. Just for us to have an idea of some statistics from 2019, and of course, because of the pandemic, we've had many transactions without having to go physically to the office. Many processes that are paperless now. And so in 2019, 71 million messages were transferred through this portal. And we have reported, for example, almost 200,000 notifications of dangerous goods. So just for us to have an idea. Of course, we're not even talking about land operations that are almost 2 million in terms of throughput. And so we can really see the relevance of this port community system in Valência. Now, of course, this is, we're talking about digital transformation and technological breakthroughs. But despite all of the breakthroughs, we cannot forget that the most important asset for us is our people. Because without the people, all of these breakthroughs wouldn't make any sense if we don't have people helping us. So thank you very much. Muito obrigada. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to participate in this talk, and I'm here available to answer any questions. Here's my email if you want to get in touch with me. Okay? Thank you very much. All the best.